Hello there, bird friends. Today we're going to talk about the best cages for your feathered friends. As a parrot expert and trainer, I've spent a lot of time around cages, so I know a thing or two about what makes a good one. The reason it is important to have the right size cage is because if your buddy does not get the space they need, they will get depressed, which can lead to a myriad of problems, including plucking. Plucking is the last thing you want your pretty buddy to do. Our mission at Valleywide Parrot Rescue is to take in parrots that are lost, losing their home, being neglected, or being abused. We rehabilitate them and then find them a new, loving, and caring home. The right type of cage comes down to the type of bird you have, their size, and how much space they actually need. There's a big difference between the size that they need and the space they need. We're going to explain what that is a little later. Let's start with the little guys, like Budgies and Parakeets. A big mistake I see people make is they get a cage like this. These little balls of feathers may be small, but they need plenty of space to fly around and stretch their wings. So forget about those tiny cages you see at the pet store. For parakeets and budgies, we recommend a cage that is at least 18 inches wide and 18 inches tall. If you really don't have too much space at all, which is a big reason why many people get these guys in the first place, you can make it work. All you have to do is also make sure that there's some sort of perch or playground set up outside of the cage for them to play in. I also see sometimes people have the playground setups on top of the cages like this. That also works fantastic. Make sure the cage has a few perches and plenty of toys to keep them entertained. Trust me, these guys have a short attention span and can get easily bored. Up next, we have Lovebirds, Conures, and Cockatiels. These birds are a bit bigger, so they need a bit more space to move around. We recommend a cage that's at least 24 inches wide and 36 inches tall. Don't forget to include plenty of perches, food, and water dishes. If you really have absolutely no choice and you have to keep them in a smaller cage, again, you have to make sure there's a perch or playground setup for them, either near the cage or on top of the cage like this. At this point, there are some parrots that might have a similar size, but need more space. For example, some conures may be fine with this size, but others might like to fly around and need more space for that. So you can go for something more like this. Same thing with Quakers, and especially with Indian ringnecks, who definitely need a lot more space than all the other ones we've mentioned so far. Now let's talk about the big boys, the African greys, Amazons, and Macaws. These birds are like the Arnold Schwarzeneggers and Dwayne "The Rock" Johnsons of the bird world. These guys need a lot of space and a lot of toys to keep them happy. We recommend a cage that's at least 36 inches wide and 48 inches tall. Make sure the bars are strong enough to withstand their incredibly strong beaks and claws. I would put Cockatoos in this category as well. Even though many of them, like the Goffins or the Bear Eyes, are much smaller than the African greys, Amazons, and Macaws, they still require a ton of space to be able to properly move around. All that said, you need to understand that although these cages do technically work, the most ideal thing is to get an actual bird aviary. Now, I know what you're thinking. Where do I even buy an aviary from? Well, the best part is that you're going to actually build one yourself. I'll tell you what, it may seem like a crazy task at first, but thanks to our friends at HereBird, it has never been easier. HereBird's prime objective is to help you build your perfect aviary. Step-by-step instructions make it easy even for those of us who aren't so handy. Rest assured that even if you are not that handy and can't even jumpstart a car, you will still be able to do this. The only real excuse to not have an aviary is space constraints or bad weather. Many people will bring their birds inside the house when the weather gets a little wacky. I left a link in the description below, so make sure to check them out. And now, let's talk about the features that make a good bird cage. First and foremost, it needs to be made out of sturdy materials that will not fall apart after just a few days of use. Make sure it has lockable doors to prevent your bird from making a jailbreak. Also make sure it has removable trays for easy cleaning, because let's face it, birds are messy creatures. Obviously, make sure your cages don't have any rust on them. If there are any dirt or any stains on the entire cage, you can always just power wash them off. This would be especially true if you get them secondhand or you get it from Craigslist. Most of the cages you find like this will be quite dirty, and just think about it. If you were a bird, would you want to live in a cage that has another bird's poop in it? No, especially if it's from years ago. Many of the people who sell the cages on Craigslist are people whose birds have died many years ago, and they haven't cleaned it, and they just let it sit in their garage for years and years until they decide to finally post it on Craigslist. Still, you can find some amazing steals. Just make sure you power hose it, otherwise your bird will have to live in a cage with a dead bird's ancient poop. Now, let's talk about the fun stuff. Accessories. Birds love toys, so make sure your cage has plenty of them in it. You can get anything from swings to bells to ladders. Just make sure they're made out of safe materials and don't have any small parts that can potentially be dangerous for your bird. Last but not least, we can't forget about their water and food bowls. Make sure they're big enough to hold plenty of food and water, and make sure they're easy to clean. Trust me, birds have a knack for making messes, especially when it comes to their food. A huge plus for your cage, although completely not necessary, is to have a cage with wheels. This makes all the difference with your cage experience, whether you have a big cage or a small one. It just makes it, that much easier to clean around your cage. Many people have parrots that spend separate parts of the day in separate places. For example, you will have a parrot that sleeps in a bedroom. Then in the morning it goes into the living room. In the afternoon he will go outside for a few hours. Each time you would have to spend separate money on a separate cage. And that can cost, probably if you're getting 3 cages, close to $1,000 if not more. Now if you get one on wheels, you can pop that bad boy in any room whenever you need it. Voila. In the morning, you bring the cage into the living room. Afternoon, you put the bird outside for a few hours, and then you roll it back in for the nighttime, and it sleeps in your bedroom. Now it's time for our parrot of the episode. The parrot of this episode is Baby the Cockatoo. Baby is probably one of my favorite birds at the rescue. When he first came in, I had him at my house for a few weeks to do one-on-one rehabilitation and training. Baby was so awesome. Every time I came home, he would fly from his cage across the room right onto my shoulder. Then when we played enough, I would tell him to go back and he would fly right back to his cage. And every time I would have guests over, they would see that. They would see him flying from the cage onto my shoulder. Then I would send him back and they would be like, "Wow, how did you train him to do that?" Truth is, I did not teach him to do that at all. He knew it from before. Not sure how, he just knows. I'll put some videos of Baby here in the description below. Well, that's all for now, folks. Keep in mind, when it comes to your feathered friends, bigger is always better. This was just meant to be a general guide. And if you can offer a bigger cage or bigger space, please do. If you can get an actual aviary, kudos to you. You can learn more about aviary builds by visiting HereBird at the link below. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Squawk you later, folks.